Tuesday night is pool league, and I play on the Old Oak team. I always carpool with my buddy Jack Parker. He lives a few streets over, and he and I do the driving duties 2 weeks in a row. Otherwise, one of us would drive to all the away matches. My wife Lee is friends with his wife. I've always had the impression that Elaine has a thing for me. She flirts with me more than Lee does with Jack. Traveling to and from the matches, Jack and I have our little tiffs, of course, especially when I'm driving and he's full of beer. He hints that he and Elaine would like to try an open relationship. I often get the impression that he's inviting me to make an exchange. They call it lifestyle these days, but it's not for me or Lee. On Fridays, I usually go for a beer after work. The pub is called The Talbot and is next door to my company, Barclay & Company. I have a friend at work, Mark Long, who goes with me. He's about 10 years older than me and is actually the manager of the department I work in. I feel a little sorry for him. He's been divorced for years, but still seems to pine for his ex. He lives in a big old house by himself and never goes out on dates. After a couple pints of beer, he starts pining away, talking about the good old days when he was married. Fortunately, he can only drink 3 pints, so I don't have to listen to him for long, and I get home before 9. My wife is originally from China. Her last name is Lee, and although the Chinese put last names first, she is comfortable being called Lee. She goes to a wine bar on Wednesdays with the girls from her office, but she doesn't drink much. She can't drive, so I drop her off and pick her up when she's ready to go home. A couple times, the girls have talked me into stopping for a glass of wine. The Chinese have some habits that are not so common in the West. I shower in the morning, and Lee showers immediately after coming home. If we are not expecting anyone, she puts on night clothes. She treats her sleep clothes more like house clothes, and would happily go in pajamas and slippers to the corner store if I'd let her, although she will wear a robe if her nightgown is too revealing. I often catch her cooking dinner in a sexy nightie. The other thing is that I'm always naked under my pajamas, but she, whether it's a nightgown or pajamas, always wears panties. I've never known a woman with so much underwear. Not bras, she's quite petite and only wears them to work, but panties. Lee's got tons of them, half a dozen white but delicate, and over a dozen cotton panties, all the colors of the rainbow, plus a few thongs, mostly red or black, and some see-through French knickers. Sexy stuff, purely for my benefit. And one morning we were in the bathroom where we have shelves for cleaning supplies and spare toilet rolls. Hanging around the edges were 3 pairs of panties. The French panties were left over from our sex the night before. The other 2 were pink and lilac. Lee, why do you wash your panties when you take a shower? Ace. What? She spit out the toothpaste. Roommates. When I was in university, we lived in a threesome, me and 2 men. I always felt awkward putting my panties in the machine with their stuff, so I washed them when I showered and dried them in my room. Would you rather I hung them out on the washing machine? No, they add color. I was just curious. Soon there were clues, trivial things that popped into my head. It started after the pool match. On the way to the car, Jack sent a message on his phone. You do this every time we play. Who are you texting? Elaine. I do it after every match. I send an OMW. What's an OMW? On my way. The next week I was driving. White Hart is the furthest stadium from us. 2 games turned into a safety battle and we finished late. He sent his message while we were in the car. I couldn't see it, but it was definitely 3 quick emails. It meant nothing until the following Saturday. Lee and I were at the supermarket, and Lee was waiting for fresh fish to be weighed and cleaned. Playboys, Elaine accused. Where did you and Jack go last Tuesday, Neil? Oh, hi, Elaine. I explained why we were late. Jack was supposed to call me. I was waiting. I frowned. It didn't make sense. He texted her. The following Friday, I had drinks with Mark. Before I left, I stopped at Gentleman's. On the way out, I stopped to chat with a coworker and looked back at Mark. He was sending a message on his phone. It looked like 3 letters. Walking home, I thought, if he lives alone, who is he texting? It was pool night again, and Lee and I were having dinner. I had already changed into jeans and a sweater. She was wearing a towel robe over a sheer nightgown. I dropped my chopstick, and as I lay under the table, I noticed that her knees were spread. She was wearing her usual weekday panties, dark blue, so the pair she had been wearing all day was hanging in the bathroom. When I got back from the match, Lee looked sexy. We won easily, and I was horny. "Turn off the TV and drop your panties," I commanded. She laughed and did so. After I had messed with her, we lay there panting and panting. "I guess my Neil did a good job today," she said. "Sure did," I replied. "They only won one game." My hero. And now that I've gotten rid of it, I said, I need to go and get rid of the beer. For men, peeing is a moment for introspection, like picking your nose when your car is at a red light. I rinsed off the water and watched the blue water swirl around the pot, as blue as her panties. I looked up to the shelves, and there lay her dark blue panties that she wore during dinner. I stopped breathing and reached out to squeeze them. They were still damp. On the other side of the shelf was a lemon-colored pair, not as damp. Those must have been the ones she wore to work today, so now Lee was probably getting back into the pink thong she was wearing when I had just fucked her. The lemon panties are for work, washing them at home. The blue ones are for dinner, and she washed those too. Later, I thought it over. Not much reason for her to change her panties again. Elaine said she was worried. What if Jack sent Lee an OMV, and Mark did the same? Those messages might mean I was on my way home, not them. On Friday, I went to the pub again. Early the next morning, I checked her phone. There was an OMW sent as I was leaving the Talbot. After Lee got up, the message was deleted. On Tuesday, I called Jack. "Is it okay if I drive today?" "Sure, why do you want to drive offline?" "I'm thinking of selling the Mondeo. There's a guy in Oak who wants to look at it." We had a pint each and watched the wagoners arrive. I spoke quietly to the guy who was drawing up the entry list and asked to play last. When Jack got up for his match, he threw his jacket over the back of his chair and rolled up his sleeves. I said, "My customer has just arrived. I won't be long." I took his phone from his jacket pocket, walked out into the parking lot, and drove home, bringing the queue with me. I parked on one of the streets and quietly slipped into the house. Taking the thick end of the queue out of its case, I silently walked up the stairs. I mentally envisioned the picture outside the bedroom door. Lee would be lying on his back with his knees up to his ears, and my so-called friend Mark would be drowning in it. I was going to hit him over the head and pondered how hard to do it. I wanted him to get hurt, but I didn't want to be accused of murder. As I opened the door, I realized I had hit the spot. Mark was up to his ears with Lee, her legs resting on his shoulders. Her phone was on the nightstand waiting for an OMV message. I figured I had a couple of seconds before they detected my presence. I used those seconds to my advantage. I swung at Mark and hit him in the right side of the jaw. He staggered to the side and sat on the floor, resting his elbow on the corner of the bed. His injury wasn't serious, but I relieved it with a second punch that only broke his nose. Lee rolled off the bed and stood in front of me. She was about to say something, but it couldn't interest me. I gently touched her face with the cue, smearing some of Mark's blood on one cheek. "If you don't want any of this, back off and be quiet." I would never hit her, so I was surprised when she did as she was told. Perhaps she had never seen me in such a quiet rage before. I lifted Mark to his feet and dragged him towards the door. "Lee, bring all your clothes downstairs, but don't put anything on." In the living room, I ordered Mark to kneel. He dropped like a stone, and I walked around behind him, placing the end of the cue on one of his shoulders. "Answer my questions quickly and truthfully, or you'll get more. So, how many times have you had my wife?" He glared at her as she appeared with the rolls of clothes. I gestured for her to drop them. He thought I would check his answers with Lee and Jack and answered. "6, he said. "Always on Tuesday?" "Yes. How did you get here today?" "By car. It's around the corner." That was all I needed right now. "Lee," I said, "lift up your panties. Mark, stand up." I didn't have time to check what she was wearing. It turned out to be a lacy black thong. I made her kneel in front of him, and he reluctantly got into them. Then I made him put on his shoes, leather lace-up brogues, no socks. I gave him the car keys. "You can go home. I'll keep your wallet and clothes and take some money as payment for the new carpet in your bedroom and compensation for the damage you did to my queue. But one more but, and you'll put it in your mouth." I waved it in front of his face. "And while you're running around the block, think about reorganizing our department. I'll keep your credit cards and driver's license until I get a promotion, and try never to drink at Talbot's again, Friday or any other night. I made Lee go to the window and watch Mark trot down the street. He looked ridiculous, pale buttocks jiggling in a little thong. Then we sat down on the couch. I know you're just raring to explain everything to me, but part of your punishment is that I won't let you do that. I don't want to hear that things weren't what they seem. It was just sex. Or that you love me with all your heart. Just answer me. I decided to test her with a question I already knew the answer to. Who else have you slept with behind my back? Jack. More? No. Why did you do that? She just shrugged. Did you always do it here, or have you ever been to their house? Only once I was at Mark's. You were playing pool with Jack, and I was outside his house fixing my phone. I'd been to Mark's. He was having a housewarming party right after he moved there after his divorce. Great place, much bigger than ours. Now the next part of my plan was starting to emerge, but for now I just had to wait. Jack wouldn't keep me waiting long. Not 20 minutes later, a cab pulled up in front of the house. You can go and let him in, I said to the still naked Lee. Don't try to cover yourself. Just bring him here. I heard him exclaim, Lee! But she didn't say anything back. Neil, he began. Shut up, replied I. Go up to the bedroom. You know where it is. And when you've had a good look around, come back here. I heard him say, Jesus, before turning back. Did you see the blood? He nodded. Did you kill him? He asked. Probably, I grinned. Oh my God. He buried his face in his hands. Now, unless you want to spill some of your own blood, I suggest you answer my questions. I threatened him with the cue, but there was no need. He would work under the assumption that I knew everything. How many times have you slept with Lee? About a dozen. So she started with him. Mark must have added later. Does Elaine know what you've been up to? No, please don't tell her. Oh? I was under the impression you were into that sort of thing. We've talked about it, but we haven't tried it yet. So you agreed that you'd try it first and then let Elaine know how it went. Is that it? No, we agreed to do it together or not at all. She'll kill me if she finds out. Please, Neil, I'm sorry. I'll do anything. That's what every man wants to hear. So, here's the deal. Take me, and Elaine will tell you everything. You go home and tell her you've thought it over, and you've decided that you don't really want another woman. In fact, you want Elaine to have another man? You want everyone to anticipate how she's going to get ready. You know, stockings, lube, and so on. You want to watch her leave the house, not knowing if she'll be back this night or the next morning. You'll be turned on by her telling you all her dirty deeds, and tell her that the man she should start with is me. She'll ask what Lee thinks of all this. She will. I looked at Lee. Tell her that we've had some difficulties and we've been spending some time apart. Nothing serious. Maybe we'll get back together, but right now I'm living here alone and would love some female company. You don't know what the problem is, and you don't know where Lee is staying, but Elaine should talk to Lee tomorrow and she'll confirm everything I've said. She'll say she'd be glad to have Elaine keep me company while we sort things out. Okay. If you can't convince her to start sleeping with me soon, it'll be a divorce for you, with all that entails. Strictly speaking, half of what that entails. In the meantime, I continued, remove yourself from the pool league. I'll explain that I had a family emergency tonight, but I'll be back. Okay. Then you'd better head home. Here's your phone. Get dressed. Meet me tomorrow night at the Oak and let me know if Elaine agrees. As he left, I turned to Lee. You've been very quiet during all of this. Rest assured it was absolutely the right thing to do. Keep doing what I say and you'll come out of this unscathed. We'll be separated for a while. I don't know exactly how long. It depends on how I'm feeling and what's going on with Elaine. Go upstairs and get dressed. Then pack enough stuff to last, say, 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Where am I going? While you pack, I'll sort out the accommodation. Don't worry, we'll keep in touch. I'll change all the locks. But if you need more stuff, you can come any time, if you give me a heads up. While she was upstairs, I called Mark. He too agreed to my instructions. She came back with a large suitcase that looked like she had been packing for a month, which was fine. I didn't know if I wanted her back yet. I called you a cab. Where am I going? To Mark's. He's got a place. Go and kiss his broken nose better, or anything else that hurts. I don't care what you do to him. I want to stay here. Tough. You got what you wanted, now it's my turn. The cab honked its horn. Lend me your phone for a minute. Before returning it to her, I sent Mark a text. OMW.